kiddos, it's Skymin in a now rare scripted video. Today I wanted to talk about something a little different than the topics I normally make video essays on. Sorry, no discussion about why Scout's hand is placed here on this thumbnail. In 2022, I was given the opportunity to run a panel with some friends at a few conventions. After a handful of runs, I wanted to make a little video talking about my thoughts and experiences with running one, as well as giving advice to anyone looking to run a panel for the first time. This also gives me an opportunity to show you some of the content creation I've been doing outside of the channel. Along with some friends, I've started running a video game music trivia panel at our local conventions. So far, we've been able to run this panel at MomoCon, Anime Weekend Atlanta, and Sonic and Sega Fan Jam in 2022. The premise of our panel is simple. We challenge contestants on their ability to identify video game music through a 30-second snippet of a song and some basic information.
This is an action-adventure game from 2005, also for the PS2.
Shadow of the Colossus.
That is correct. Do you
Do
know
you
the
know
name of
the
the
song?
song?
Nope.
Yeah, you are correct. This is Shadow of the Colossus. This is Revived Power. You're some kind of emo dancer searching for a necromancer, someone to revive this woman named Mono.
As a contestant correctly answers, they move on to the next level. The higher the level, the harder the song and/or game is to identify. If you know me, you'll know that I absolutely love video game music. In fact, I listen to mostly video game soundtracks to the point where if you were to calculate it, probably 90% of the music I've ever willingly listened to are from video games. So, getting the chance to share amazing songs and soundtracks with like-minded people feels very validating to my 12-year-old self that was ridiculed for it. The general goal of our panel is to create an entertaining, informative, and rewarding experience for both the audience and players. We've given out a variety of prizes from what we've been able to afford out of pocket, but our general rule is that everyone that participates walks away with at least something. For the time being, we give out vinyl stickers due to their low cost. The game runs off of a leaderboard system, so the person who has the most points at the end lands themselves in first place. Or, on the off chance, a contestant manages to get through all of the levels.
Alright, up to Overkill. Oh my god, this is going to be so much fun. There's an edutainment game from 2005. You don't get the console.
Sonic X Sleepster?
Yes!
Oh my god! Okay. She just gets a prize now. She just gets a prize.
Do you know the name of the song?
I think it's one of the second math portion.
It's...
Honestly, I couldn't.
Ow. You just get a prize.
You were the first person to
Do
ever
you
win
want
trivia.
the Among Us?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Wait, pull out the other one.
Oh yeah.
Hang on. Do we give them that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
She's the only one.
Congratulations! You get the grand prize. This is the 20th anniversary Persona soundtrack.
Thank you.
There's 5 CDs, best of each game.
Thank you so much.
We know being assigned a prize based on your placement isn't always the most exciting to the winners, so we allow them to choose what they want out of our grab bag based on where they placed. So, first place gets pick of the litter, and so on and so forth. I wanted to make a section of the video dedicated to how we run our panel from a technical standpoint, because I'm actually pretty proud of what we came up with, and as far as I'm aware, our setup is rather unique for a game show panel. Usually there's 4 types of technical setups you'll see from trivia panels. The first is the most basic, no visuals. The questions are read off of a phone, a piece of paper, something of the sort, and there's nothing for the audience to look at except the host. I personally find this to be the worst way to do a game show panel, since it shows the audience that little effort was put into the actual experience. Additionally, while this is something we're unable to circumvent due to the nature of our topic, having no visuals for question makes the panel inaccessible to those with hearing problems. Some attendees may just not be able to hear the questions being asked and therefore unable to participate. The second way is a rudimentary PowerPoint, or a similar program that displays the questions on slides. This also includes pre-made template sites, such as the one for Jeopardy, which allows the user to fill in the squares with whatever they want. The third method is fully rendered videos for each question. These are significant amounts of work, even if you're working with a custom template, and not likely the ones you'll see at small fan-run panels. The upside to this is the possibility of high production quality visually, since everything is made prior to the panel and nothing is done on the fly. And the fourth is the Runaway Guy's Throne controllers. If you're unfamiliar with this panel, the entire show is ran off of an actual custom program that's set up to have a variety of challenges and questions. I'd say in terms of presentation, this is considered the highest form from what can be considered an unofficial fan-run panel at conventions. However, we're a bit different. We don't use any of those methods. Oh no, what we use is OBS. Now, when I say we use OBS, I don't mean we live stream the panel to the audience. Hell, you can't even bank on having internet access at some of these conventions, let alone cell service. What we do instead is we project the viewport of OBS to the projector in the room and have it act as a second screen for the laptop. Extending the displays allows me to seamlessly control the visuals for a smooth and consistent viewing experience in real time. Extending the displays allows me to only ever show the audience what I want them to see. They never see me navigating my desktop as I pull up the required audio clips and control OBS from a Stream Deck. Due to this method, the audience is given a consistent, fluid experience, so long as I don't duck it up, which has happened on occasion.
All right,
This
let's
is
do
an
this.
action game from
Wait,
2000.
sorry, nope, this one.
This is not an action. This is a platform beat 'em up from 2008. It's a fighting game from 06, originally released on arcade.
No, they use run forward.
That's not it.
That's not it!
That's wrong.
I'm very happy to say that that is not the correct song.
The way I see it, we're using OBS as a sort of souped-up PowerPoint. Instead of going through page by page, we're instead able to hop around to different scenes and different images at any point in the run. If something was set up incorrectly prior to the show and is missing from the setup, we can quickly swivel to a different question within the same level. This is what I see when we run the panel. The thing that really allows us to work is the Stream Deck, since it allows me to switch scenes and sources in OBS without having to navigate through the actual program. This setup allows me to quickly pull up and switch to whatever is needed, while my co-hosts handle the majority of the commentating. Having co-hosts is a godsend, because it means I can primarily focus on dealing with the visuals. There are 4 of us that run the panel, and while it may seem like a lot, it makes it so that we can all focus on one job. 2 act as main commentators, I'm the visual handler, and the 4th is our point tracker and weeb consultant that helps me keep track of what songs have already been played and what's next. Our first ever run of this panel, and running a panel in general, was at MomoCon. We got placed midday on the busiest day of the weekend, so needless to say we were all really nervous when the room filled up before we even started. Luckily, for a first time, I'd say we did pretty well, aside from not managing our time perfectly. After our very first run at MomoCon, we learned that going off of a completely RNG'd list of song orders was a horrendous method of choosing the songs. By leaving it up to the RNG, we ended up having a huge skew towards racing games. Like, a massive amount of racing games were played. Unfortunately, I don't have footage of this because we didn't think to record our panel, so you'll just have to take my word on it. After our first run, we decided to instead curate a list of songs in the order in which they're played for all subsequent panels. This way we wouldn't have, like, half of the songs played to be from the same genre one after another. When we put these lists together, there's a lot of factors we try to take into account. The genre, the generation of the game and platform, and what the main theme of the event we're at. For instance, if it's an anime convention, we tend to throw more anime-adjacent games in than if it was a Western animation and gaming one. But this isn't foolproof. Specifically with our Sega edition, we ended up with a bunch of Sonic games back-to-back that was then given to one of the event coordinators who came up to play. The man who used to run a Sonic news channel.
Why y'all giving me all the Sonic ones?
What?
You're giving me all the Sonic ones.
It is literally
It's
like, that
randomized.
is just how it went. My man, you got so lucky.
Hard times, no. Ice Cap, Sonic 3 Prototype, or Origins.
This is Hard Times by the Jetsons.
For Sega and Sonic Fan Jam, we ran a Sega-specific edition of the song, complete with unique visuals, where we also re-evaluated the knowledge of our crowd in comparison to a general convention. And that was a smart move because these people knew their Sega catalog.
Is it the Alex Kidd collection?
It is.
There you go.
Come get another second.
For Sega Vintage Collection, Alex Kidd & Co., they wrote 3 special songs in the original game's sound fonts, and they only play when you're hovering over the game in the menu. But they're really good.
Now, the downside of this format is it takes a lot of time to set up, and I mean a lot. Not only do we have to make each source an individual image in which there are 2 per song, but we have to load them into OBS, get them transitions, bind them to the Stream Deck. At this point in time, we have over 200 songs loaded into OBS, complete with every image needed to have the question ran and sound clip. However, the upsides far outweigh the downsides. The audience is given a consistent visual experience, they never have to see the back end. If we ever run out of our curated list for that event, we can easily pull up songs that weren't originally intended to be played without a hitch. It's an ever-growing list of options, and we can run a new panel in a pinch without having to rerun the previous panel due to the amount of material we've made.
Good enough. All right.
In the end, I'm very happy with how our panel is ran, and I'm looking forward to continue running it, so long as the cons keep accepting it. Now, even though I only have a year of experience and 3 runs under my belt, I still thought it would be helpful to anyone that's looking to run a panel to give some advice on how best I think it is to run one. Try not to solo a panel, specifically if it's a panel that requires some pretty heavy visual work alongside commentary and audience repertoire. Lecture-style panels where you go through a visual aid, such as a PowerPoint, is totally doable solo. Don't be a complete dickwad to your audience, unless the entire premise of your panel is to argue with the audience and they're aware of it going in. You don't want to constantly put down your audience. Please make your visuals legible and concise. I've attended my fair share of panels where the visuals are almost impossible to see due to the dimness of the projector, the color choices made by the panelist, and the fluorescent lights in the room. Bring energy to the room. You're the focal point for everyone. Even if you have to fake it, bring some energy to your hosting. No one wants to listen to a host be monotone and dead sounding for an hour. Understand your audience and the size of it. This is something that really strays into assumptions and educated guessing. Start with the theme of the convention to get a basis for what type of audience interest to expect. In terms of the audience size, that's something that will come with experience. For example, our panel, if we were to have to work with a much larger crowd, we would have to reformat how we chose contestants, since choosing by an audience member raising their hand becomes unmanageable in a large room. Size is also more of a factor for any audience participation panels. Control your audience. This may sound a bit weird, but hear me out. Sometimes you may get someone who's disruptive or derailing the panel. Being the panel host, you need to be able to prevent this from happening. You can use your voice to respectfully shut them down, or if they're on the disruptive side, a lot of times there will be a volunteer staff present in the room that can handle them while you continue on. Specific to game show panels that use difficulty levels, for the love of God, get outside opinions on what is deemed easy and difficult. There's a reason there are 4 of us that work on the panel, plus any outside opinions we grab from. It allows our leveling system to be a hell of a lot more accurate than if one person was putting everything together, because we can bounce off of each other's knowledge and experience.
Yeah, alright, we put this in the wrong one.
Maybe this shouldn't have been a level 5. Their attempt at making a mascot before Sonic. Flicky was in 2 games before Sonic. Flicky and Blockseed.
Do not run an internet-dependent panel. Make sure your entire panel can be ran offline with no issues. You really cannot count on these venues having internet access, much less cell signal. When submitting, make sure the con knows exactly what you need. If you're running a panel with visuals, they need to know you need a room with a projector. If you have multiple people talking, let them know how many mics you need. You don't want to get stuck with a room unequipped to handle your panel. Finally, for the love of God, try to get a good time for your panel. If it's a panel that requires audience participation, when you're submitting your panel, make sure you put ideal time slots for your panel and not just the entirety of the time at your convention. You don't want to get stuck with an audience participation panel scheduled for the morning of the last day of the convention, the night after a rave. Yeah, we learned our lesson. Running this panel was one of my biggest creative outlets of 2022, in addition to starting cosplaying back up since the pandemic, and it's been a lot of fun. This is where I shamelessly plug my socials for any creative stuff I do outside of YouTube and Twitch. So, go check them out. A big ol' special thanks to my highest Patreon supporters, Damp Volcano and Trey Windenall. Additional thanks to Jorge Isa, Julian Arnott, Moeke Kiru, and Sean O'Mani. I'll be revamping how Patreon works in the near future, so keep an eye out.